8:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here is the news edited by Lakshman Fonseca and read by Indrani Senanayake. The headlines. There is a hesitancy shown by the public towards getting the booster dose for COVID-19, health authorities say. Plans are afoot to introduce a price control mechanism to reduce the prices of chemical fertilizer. A special program has been conducted to instruct district secretaries regarding the supervision process of developmental activities. Minister Gamanpila says that there is a political conspiracy behind the obstacles made against the regaining of the Trincomalee oil tanks. Tourist arrivals are now booming in the island. In foreign news, heavy snow kills tourists in their vehicles in northern Pakistan. The Ministry of Health says there is a hesitancy shown by the public towards getting the booster dose for COVID-19. It added that is over apparent misinformation fueled by the misinformation based on propagandas. Health officials also blame misinformation and ignorance for an unusual level of hesitancy shown towards the booster that wasn't there for the first two jabs. Speaking to the media at the Health Promotion Bureau, President of the Sri Lankan Association of Geriatric Medicine, Professor Sarath Lekamwasam said, "It's mostly people over 60 that hesitate to get the third dose." According to the ministry, the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine has been administered to 4.1 million Sri Lankans as their booster jab so far. Professor Sarath Lekamwasam said the public was informed and were motivated to get the elderly population jabbed when the vaccine was first available. The government says plans are afoot to introduce a price control mechanism to reduce the prices of chemical fertilizer. At a function held at Gannora in Kandy, the Agriculture Minister said farmers will be able to purchase chemical fertilizers from the open market at a reasonable rate from the next Yalla season. He said adequate chemical fertilizer stocks will be imported in time for the upcoming Yalla season. The minister admitted that there is not enough time to purchase chemical fertilizer and use it for the existing Maha season. The fertilizer necessary for the Yalla season will be imported by the month of April. The minister also stated that fertilizer companies have already placed orders and there would be no shortage of chemical fertilizers in the market by the coming Yalla season. A special program has been conducted to instruct district secretaries regarding the supervision process of the various developmental activities. Minister Basil Rajapaksa is to initiate a program to develop rural areas under the 2022 budget proposals, and it is scheduled to be conducted in many parts of the island. The Finance Ministry said 85 billion rupees has been allocated for the budget in this regard. Secretary to the Ministry of Local Government told the SLBC it is mandatory to supervise all the ongoing developmental programs by a senior government officer. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Get an extra 10 rupees for every dollar sent by your loved ones abroad.
We continue with local news. Minister Udaya Gamanpila says that there is a political conspiracy behind the obstacles made against the regaining of the Trincomalee oil tanks. In a media briefing today, he said the government has planned to reuse the abandoned oil tanks in the Trincomalee farm and to utilize it to boost the economy of the country. He made these remarks as a fundamental rights petition challenging the agreement signed between Sri Lanka and India to develop the farm. That was filed in the Supreme Court by a civil society activist, the Venerable Wakkulle Udita Thera of the Jatika Bhikkhu Peramuna. The petitioner has named 47 persons, including the Attorney General, Secretary to the President, the Minister of Finance, Secretary to the Ministry of Defence, Minister of Energy, and the Auditor General as respondents. Sri Lanka and India reached the agreement on the 6th of January. Tourist arrivals are now booming. in the country. The director of the Katunayake International Airport, Shehan Sumanasekara, says over 89,000 tourists had arrived in the country through the Katunayake arrivals terminal. He added that more than 3,000 tourists had arrived in the island since the 1st of January this year. The airport had added 5 more counters to the exit terminal to facilitate the travellers. There are more than 60 counters to serve travellers, director of the Katunayake International Airport added. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka has released $5 million to clear the containers of essential commodities stranded at the Colombo port. The Ministry of Trade said a total of $14 million is required to release the stranded containers. The ministry also said the remaining amount is expected to be issued by the central bank by next Monday. It is reported that nearly 1,000 containers carrying essential food items are still held at the Colombo port due to the shortage of US dollars in the country. The containers are packed with rice, sugar, dal, potatoes, our correspondent said. Next, a look at the main news story.
Get an extra 10 rupees for every dollar sent by your loved ones abroad. Receive your money instantly via People's Bank.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The European Union, EU, and the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, in Sri Lanka have come together to support Sri Lanka to rebuild tourism. The international bodies say a key expected outcome of this initiative is to strengthen the tourism policy framework and institutional capacity at national level. The EU and UNDP say they are hoping to provide vital policy directions to recover and trigger a transformational change for a more sustainable and inclusive tourism in the island. The draft tourism policy will also aim to create a unique tourism experience for travellers to Sri Lanka. The Ministry of Tourism held a meeting on the 6th of January to discuss the engagement of the EU and UNDP in supporting tourism. The meeting was chaired by Mr. S. Hettiarachchi, Secretary to the Ministry of Tourism, with the participation of Ms. Jenny Correira Nunes, Head of Cooperation of the Delegation of the European Union to Sri Lanka and the Maldives, and Mr. Robert Ukam, Resident Representative of UNDP in Sri Lanka. That was the main news story. Watchlight follows.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On to Watchlight, Health Minister Kehelia Rambukwella says that the booster dose will soon be made mandatory to access public places in addition to the first and second doses. Minister Rambukwella stated that a new vaccine card with a QR code and a vaccination app would be introduced soon. Meanwhile, Minister Rambukwella said plans are underway to turn all local government bodies in the country into vaccination centres to expedite the booster rollout. That was Watchlight. A bulletin of world news will follow.
Coming up, World News.
World News headlines: heavy snow kills tourists in their vehicles in northern Pakistan. A building in Chongqing in China collapsed after an explosion caused by a gas leak. Japanese health officials confirmed more than 8,000 new cases of the coronavirus. At least 21 people have died after heavy snow trapped them in their vehicles in northern Pakistan. The military is attempting to clear roads and rescue those trapped near the hilltop town of Murray. Around 1,000 vehicles were trapped on a highway during a blizzard, Interior Minister Sheikh Rashid said. Murray is a mountain resort town north of the capital Islamabad. Local media reported on Friday that tourists were getting stranded due to snow. More than 100,000 cars had entered Murray in recent days to see the unusually heavy snowfall. This caused a huge traffic jam on roads leading in and out of the town, police said. Police said at least 6 people had frozen to death in their cars, but it is not yet clear how others had died. asphyxiation after inhaling fumes had been given as a possible reason. A building in Chongqing in China's southwest has collapsed after an explosion suspected of having been caused by a gas leak, killing at least 16, state broadcaster CCTV reported. As of midnight yesterday, 26 people had been taken from the site, 16 of whom had died, the broadcaster said today. One person was in critical condition, and the others injured people were also in hospital after being trapped in concrete following the explosion. The Ministry of Emergency Management dispatched a team of more than 600 personnel to the scene in Chongqing's Wulong district, CCTV said. Images posted by the Xinhua news agency showed heavy equipment lifting slabs of concrete from the site of the explosion. Japanese health officials say they confirmed more than 8,000 new cases of the coronavirus island-wide today. It's the first time since September the 11th that the daily tally topped 8,000. Officials in Okinawa confirmed 1,759 new COVID-19 cases, and the daily tally marked the highest ever in Okinawa, surpassing 1,414 infections reported on Friday. Meanwhile, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government says it confirmed 1,224 new cases in the capital today. The daily tally has soared more than 15-fold from a week ago. It is the first time since September the 15th that the daily number has topped 1,000. To end this bulletin of world news, the headlines again. Heavy snow kills tourists in their vehicles in northern Pakistan. A building in Chongqing in China collapses after an explosion caused by a gas leak. Japanese health officials confirmed more than 8,000 new cases of the coronavirus. That ends this bulletin of world news. Development news follows.
Development news is brought to you by Let's take all out of the coconut tree and make the island thriving and prosperous. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
On to development news. The National Authority on Tobacco and Alcohol Chairman Dr. Samhadi Rajapaksa said they launched a mobile application to identify illegal activities related to tobacco and alcohol occurring in many parts of the country. He said any person can download the app and send a photograph to the authority while following simple steps. Dr. Rajapaksa said that this application does not require any personal details for the registration, and the authorities will hold full responsibility for the personal details and mobile numbers. That was development news. A look at sports news next.
Development news was brought to you by the coconut tree is well grown in almost all the parts of the island. It is an exceptional source of extra income. The shell, the husk and almost all the parts of the coconut tree makes you money, providing you with an excellent extra source of income. It will also help to nourish the economy of the country. You will be guided with all necessary informations regarding the coconut cultivation, with the novel cultivation techniques and all other related and upgraded informations by the Coconut Research Institute, Lunavilla. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
On to sports news. Japan's Naomi Osaka has withdrawn injured from the semi-final of an Australian Open warm-up tournament, but the defending champion says she still intends to play in the Grand Slam. The 24-year-old returned to action in Australia after 4 months out following the US Open. She withdrew from the Melbourne Summer Set because of an abdominal injury. The 4-time Grand Slam champion took an indefinite break from tennis after losing to eventual finalist Leylah Fernandez in the third round on September's US Open. That came after a turbulent year in which she said she would not do news conferences at the French Open to protect her mental health, later pulling out of the event, missing Wimbledon and revealing she had experienced anxiety and depression. That was sports news. Business news follows.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Samsung Sri Lanka announces their widely acclaimed Upgrade Festival has been further extended due to popular demand until the end of January 2022. Accordingly, Samsung Electronics will continue to upgrade all Sri Lankan households to the premium Samsung technology. The campaign, which was launched on the 5th of November, is now valid until the 31st of January 2022. Samsung Sri Lanka said the Upgrade Festival features vouchers up to 5,000 rupees and bundle packs such as free soundbars and microwaves to be redeemed for selected household goods, accumulating to a value of 140 million rupees. That was business news. Economic news is next.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB You Trust.
On to economic news. The Sri Lankan government has decided to import 100,000 metric tons of rice from Myanmar. The imported rice will be to maintain a buffer stock. Minister Bandula Gunawardena said the Ministry of Trade has signed a memorandum of understanding with Myanmar in this regard. The minister added 100,000 metric tons of rice will be imported with immediate effect. The rice stock will be imported through a state corporation from Myanmar based on the agreement between the governments of Myanmar and Sri Lanka. That was economic news. Finally, a look at the weather report.
The weather report.
The Met Department says several spells of showers will occur in the northern, north-central, eastern and Nuwara provinces and in the Matale and Nuwara districts. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places in the western and Sabaragama provinces and in the Galle and Matara districts during the evening or at night. It's also said showers or thunder showers will occur at some places in the sea areas off the coast extending from Puttalam to Hambantota via Colombo and Galle during the evening or at night. That was the weather report. To end tonight's news broadcast, we take a look at the headlines again. There is a hesitancy shown by the public towards getting the booster dose for COVID-19, health authorities say. Plans are afoot to introduce a price control mechanism to reduce the prices of chemical fertilizer. A special program has been conducted to instruct district secretaries regarding the supervision process of developmental activities. Minister Gamanpilla says there is a political conspiracy behind the obstacles made against the regaining of the Trincomalee oil tanks. Tourist arrivals are booming in the island. And in foreign news, heavy snow kills tourists in their vehicles in northern Pakistan. That ends tonight's news broadcast.